Thank you very much. Do you love your legs? Do you love your legs too, like I love my legs?
Yes, sure.
Oh, I didn't know. I think some people don't like their legs. They try to hide them. Are you familiar with the name Robert Frost? Do you know this guy?
Yes.
Who knows this guy?
I know
Uh-huh. Yeah, so it's like he's super duper extra famous. So today he will get a bit more famous than usual, I hope. So his most famous poem is The Road Not Taken. It's really beautiful. We discussed it some while ago. So that's, I think, his second super famous poem. And it's also very beautiful, so I think it's a good idea to have a look at it. I also like his name is Frost and he's writing about snow here. So do you think it's a good name for a poem? Stopping by woods on a snowy evening.
it's really strange.
Why is it strange?
Because talking about maybe lost himself in the forest.
Yeah, maybe he lost.
It looks like he tried describe this poem in the name.
In the name, yes. Why do you write a poem if you describe it in the name? Yes.
I think it's a very interesting name for a poem and very cozy, and I'd like to read it in Christmas evening.
Yes. So if you want to choose a name for your poem, imagine you're a poet, you want people to read your poem. Do you choose a long name for the poem which describes the poem? Of course not. So there's something strange going on here. So it's not a usual name, maybe it's not a usual poem. We'll see. So first of all, let's read it aloud and just try to feel how it sounds. If it sounds like a poem, like a song, like prose, like something stupid maybe. Let's read it all together. Just try to feel it on your tongue. Okay, like a little sweet. With me. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Interesting. What can we say about it after just reading it one time?
It has quite a strange rhythm.
Like there is, well, there. Oh, fine. There is a quarter which is ending for like two first lines are ending with er, then key e, and then the sound of er. So it's quite strange.
Yes.
And it, oh god. Well, we have the same situation in the third one too. So it's unusual.
It's unusual. Anything else? Maybe we. How do we feel about it when we read it?
It's something very beautiful and
Okay, beautiful makes you cry. No.
beautiful
Calm. Yeah, it's very calm. Anything else we can say here?
I think it's a good poem with good read times, especially nowadays when there are so lot of strange poems and
Where nobody bothers to rhyme it. Yeah, rhymes are very interesting here. It's true. Something strange going on with the rhymes.
I want to ask, this is a whole poem, only
It's a
4
whole
parts,
poem.
yes?
It's a whole poem.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
So it feels like it could be a bigger poem, and it's a little bit. Anything else? Do we notice anything else that is unusual? So strange rhymes. It's not a pattern. It's changing, and it's kind of childish. It's very simple. Queer, near, lake, here. And then lake comes to shake and mistake and flake. And sweep comes to deep and keep and sleep. So if you look more closely than this odd rhyme here, lake, it really rhymes with the next bit. Yeah? Lake from here rhymes with shake and mistake. And sweep from here, which doesn't rhyme with other three, is deep and keep. And here, stopping here, rhymes with queer and near and year. So the first time you read it, you may not notice it. You may think, it just doesn't always rhyme. But when you look more closely, you see it's very, very regular. So it's irregular and regular at the same time. Yeah? The first time you read it, it's not regular. Second time you read it, you can see the pattern. Yeah? Can you see the pattern? So it is an unusual poem because usually we just have like 2 rhymes in a stanza, like A, B, yeah? And here we have something different. Okay, anything else which is very strange in the poem? Come on, it's easy. It's staring you in the face. Just something that is not usual for a poem. Yeah, it's okay. It's characters. What is strange for it as a poem? So one strange thing is the title, the name, which is really long and descriptive. What is the other thing which we do not expect to see in the poem? Just a little technical thing which we don't expect to see in the poem.
what is story? It's not story.
There is a story. There is a story. What can you tell me about the ending?
We have 2 same lines.
2 same lines. Do we expect to see 2 same lines in the poem?
Why not?
Why not? But do we expect it? Is it normal? Is it usual? No. So how do we feel? Okay, maybe we'll find it out later. Okay, so what is the story? What's the idea here? How do we feel about it? What's the main image here?
Main idea is I think this man, yes, Persian, I don't remember. He froze in the winter, and he tried to take fire and go to woods. Yes, with horse. Main idea.
Maybe, but I don't really see it here. Maybe. Mhm.
Maybe the main idea is describing a winter forest
Do we describe the winter forest at all?
party.
No, we don't see much. But we are there. Mhm.
Maybe it's about somebody in kingdom of some
Oh, some god, yeah.
no God not
Mhm.
God for
Yeah, in other world, some sort of other world, a magic kingdom, fairy kingdom, maybe. Okay, so what's this setting? Woods on a snowy evening, and immediately from the title, from the setting, we have some ideas. So what kind of a setting is it?
Forest.
Yeah, forest on a snowy evening. Forest in winter. Is it again? Is it a usual place? Do we often go to a forest in winter in the evening?
Sometimes.
Maybe it's on holidays eve, like he wants to find the New Year Christmas tree, so he goes to the woods to find the suitable tree.
Do we think so? Do we have anything that tells us he's just out for a little trip and he's going to rob his neighbor of a Christmas tree? So, does he know where he is?
No, just in the forest somewhere.
Okay, so let's have a closer look then. Whose woods these are? I think I know. Yeah, whose woods these are? I think I know. So immediately we have this relationship. First of all, we have the woods themselves, the setting, but we know it's the woods because it's in the title, in the name. So we are not surprised. These woods, okay. I think I know. So he's not sure. He's not sure, but he thinks he knows. And already, if you say, I think I know who these woods are, it means that the wood is there and somebody has it. And can you have the wood? So we have the wood. Have the wood. And what's the wood? Generally, in our mind, in our culture, in our ideas, when we talk about the wood, what kind of a place is it?
It's like a forest.
Yeah, the forest. And what kind of a place is it? Is it a nice, happy place?
It's always dangerous and also dark.
It depends on the weather, maybe. And
And
the
the
time
weather,
of the
but
day.
now it's, we know it's getting dark, we know it's snowy, it's very dead and quiet, there's nothing, no one. So the wood, the forest is always a very special place. It's a dangerous place, it's a strange place where you can meet anything at all, anyone, anything. Yeah? If you go through the woods, it means you have your special power, because otherwise you would be just eaten next minute. Yeah? So the woods are a very special, dark, powerful place. Yeah? In all cultures. And if you think about it, it's not so long time ago when people started going to the wood just for pleasure. It was a very strange and stupid idea to go for the just for pleasure.
Why? Maybe there are tourists. And
Tourists. You had all those wild beasts and horrible things waiting for you in this strange darkness. So if you have to travel through the wood, it takes courage, it takes power. Yeah. He goes there. And now when we say, somebody has the wood, and we think, so the wood isn't so scary, because if somebody can have it, like you can have, what can you have? A cat, maybe. Can you have a cat? No, you can't have a cat.
If an is a landlord, he can have wood, land,
Yes,
and
like a landlord.
other assets. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? And so if he has the wood, he watches it too. It watches it somehow, and maybe he keeps it in order. Who knows?
Okay.
And if there is a village near the wood, so it is some kind of organized place for living for people. And if the author is riding a horse, it means that there is some kind of road along which people can commute.
Yes.
So that place doesn't seem to be very dangerous or wild.
Yeah, maybe it's not very, very horrible. So we have
This
this.
is a part of surroundings.
A village wood and a road on which you can ride, and all this doesn't seem very dangerous.
Yeah, so it doesn't feel very dangerous, especially as we say somebody has it. I think. So that's beautiful how he puts I think. So we are not sure, or maybe we are not sure that you can have the forest. Maybe the forest is something much bigger than you can have.
You know, we know Robert Frost. I think I know him, but in fact I'm not acquainted and can't be acquainted with him. But I think I know him. He's some man.
Yeah. So we have this forest. I think I know whose roots these are. I think I know. His house is in the village, though. That changes things, doesn't it? His house is in the village, though. He doesn't live in the forest. He doesn't really belong to the forest. The forest doesn't really belong to this whoever he. So we have two realities here. In the first two lines, we have this image of the world. Because a poem is always an image of a reality, one or another. And here we have this mapping. That's the village, and that's the forest. And there is someone who says he has the forest, but he doesn't. You can't have the forest from the village. Yeah, you can't belong to the forest from the village. It's the same as if you're the head of a Scottish clan. You can't be the head of a Scottish clan if you live in Canada. Yeah. You can't be the head of the forest if you live in the village. It's not just a different place, it's a different reality. Can you tell me the difference, Susie? We have two realities, the forest and the village.
Organized, not organized?
Yeah, very easy.
Places.
It's organized, not organized, safe, dangerous, with people, without people, or you can say that is something we know, that's our place where we feel safe and comfortable, and that's the unknown. The forest is always something unknown. So we have these two worlds. Are they connected or are they separate? Are they connected or are they separate?
Connected on the, I think these houses were built from forest, from woods, yes. This connection.
You think they're separate?
Because to stop without one house, maybe. But this house is in the village.
I really can't hear you. So they're separate because people from the village can't go into the forest. They can only sit in their village, as we see from the poem, apparently. Yeah? His house is in the village, though. Yeah? He says he has it, but he can't really go there. So if we think about ourselves, or maybe we have this nice organized place inside ourselves, which we call our home, our house, and we have this big, strange place, the forest, and we say, but of course, I have it. I'm a normal person, I'm responsible, I can keep my dark, strange stuff under control. Of course I have it. But somehow we don't want to go there, we prefer to sit in the village. Yeah? If you know what I mean?
Do you think that
People can just go through the forest? Maybe there is a road between two villages.
Maybe, but we don't see it here. We only see what we are shown. That's the thing about poems, that's the thing about, I don't know, virtual reality. You only see what you're shown. The rest is your fantasies. Yeah. Anything else?
do you think that first depicts subconscious here in the forest?
We don't know what he does, we can only know what we can see in it. Yeah, that's again, that's the beauty of poetry. It doesn't have to be poetry, it can be any old thing at all, but poetry is more interesting, it's more beautiful, it's nicer to look at. The thing is what we see in it, what responds to us, that's what's important. Who cares about these big great guys who sit and write? Who cares what they think? We don't care, we only care about ourselves, really. That's what's important, to understand yourself. And poetry is very good for it, because it's like a little mirror. Mirror on the wall. Yeah? We look into it, we try to understand what we are seeing there. So in a way, it's like this a magic mirror or a magic crystal. You look into it, you see some very strange shapes, and you try to understand them. The shapes don't come from the mirror, they don't come from the crystal, they come from you. Yeah? So maybe we can say that it's like subconsciousness and the consciousness and more shoes around. Anyway, that's the general idea. It doesn't matter how we call it. The idea is that the forest and the village, two parts of reality. We don't have just the forest, we don't have just the village, we have two separate parts of realities, which are somehow connected, but not too strongly. And the part which is organized claims to have some control over the wild part, but as we can see, it's only words, it's not really true. He will not see me stopping here. So this guy, whoever sits there, he does not have any power. He will not see me there. So seeing is power. Knowing is power, seeing is power. Yeah? So this guy here who says, oh, I have it, the organized part, he doesn't have this access. He doesn't know what's going on in this forest. Yeah? And now we have this strange I narrator. Who is this guy?
A man who deals with horse.
Yeah, he's a traveler. He's a traveler.
Maybe he is a man who looking for something.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Can I say? Maybe if we will look deeper, yes, it can be God.
Can be God. Yeah, maybe. So God is like a traveler who goes past the village, past through your strange little thoughts which you try to hide from yourself. He knows it all and he thinks, it's beautiful. Yeah, maybe. So again and again, somehow we have all these different poems with travelers. And again we say, who's a traveler? It's somebody who is free, who isn't fixed, who can move freely. So if you belong to the village, you stay in the village. If you belong to the forest, apparently you stay in the forest. But if you're the traveler, you can go in between. You don't stay anywhere because you don't belong anywhere. You don't have a home, you're nowhere, in no time, in no place. You're suspended, and that's the most interesting place. So he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So stopping here. Why stopping here? not staying here, not watching his woods here, stopping here.
It's a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then he continues his way.
Yeah, exactly. It means it's just a brief, a little moment on his bigger journey. So I think that's one of the ideas of this poem, to show us, to give us this feeling of a little moment of calmness and beauty on this big long journey. We know nothing about his big journey, but we can feel how big it is. And still, even though you have this big long journey, every moment like that is priceless. It's very important. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So what is he doing there unseen? What does he do?
Observing, he's observing, admiring nature. As I see it, he doesn't watch into his conscious or subconscious or into himself. He just stopped for a while to feel the world, the life around him. Not only to think about his duties, responsibilities, because he definitely was going somewhere to village to fulfill some duties.
Yeah, so he knows this place. Maybe he just knows this place. Maybe it's not the first time that he comes there. Because he says, I know the village, I know the people from the village, or at least I know the big guy from the village, the landlord. He doesn't seem to be very interested in it. Like, okay, but he will not see me here. To watch his woods fill up with snow. So he's not trying to do anything. He's not trying to, cut the Christmas tree. He's not trying to hunt. He's not trying, nothing really. It's like a little meditation. So fill up with snow. Do you often stop to watch the woods fill up with snow? How do you imagine it?
Everything is beautiful in snow, in winter.
Does it take a long time or a short time for the woods to be filled up with snow?
Long time.
Well, in Russian it's
So it's a beautiful, slow process when you watch the snowflakes falling. And the real beauty of it is that you have all these tiny little snowflakes. These tiny little snowflakes fill up the forest, the whole forest. And what kind of a person do you have to be to enjoy it? To enjoy the sight of a little snowflake? Snowflake. What kind of a person are you?
Romantic.
Romantic?
Who love miracle.
Yeah, loving miracles.
You should be a feeling person.
Yeah. So these guys, maybe they just don't have such ideas. Like you can go to the forest not to hunt, not to get some wood, but just to look at it. Maybe they think it's very strange. Maybe. To watch his woods fill up with snow. And again, if we read it, then we feel this emptiness. We can feel the busy life in the village, because when we say village, we imagine lots of people, busy life, lots of houses. And we feel like all this busy life is left there, and nobody comes to the forest. There's only the narrator, because somebody has to look at it to tell us. So, and fill up with snow. What is snow? Snow is like silence. It fills up with snow, then it's a calm and it's maybe cold, but it's silent.
Maybe it's a sign of wholeness.
Yeah, it's white, it's fluffy, maybe. Fill up with snow, fill up with silence. We start feeling it.
And this is for private responsibility.
Maybe it's death before life. Maybe. You tell me.
And I think it's life and sleeping death.
When you watch snow falling, you feel calmness inside you, inside your soul. You are not in a hurry and just like enjoying nature.
Yeah. So does this guy, the narrator, sound like he's just a lazy poet who has nothing better to do than to stop in the forest and look at the snowflakes? Because we know these guys. One of them, do you remember, went to the old ruins in the middle of the night and surprised saw a ghost. Yeah. So another one was sitting at a little stream and watching the fish, thinking it's very amusing. And now we have this guy watching the snowflakes. What kind of strange things do they do? Does he sound like one of those romantic people who have nothing better to do?
Yes, he looks to me like one of those romantic people too. But I also imagine maybe at night on his horse walking through the forest somewhere.
What do we get from the whole poem? Do we have a feeling that he has just nothing better to do, or maybe something else?
It's just some type of meditation, when you are fixed on the time right now, fixed on the flakes, and then when they're falling, yeah, you get in meditation.
Yeah.
His horse isn't used to going to the forest and meditating with her owner. So she was, it was surprised by stopping there, because usually it is busy too. So it is not his habit going to forest and meditating there.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
as far as I understood the idea, he doesn't tend to stop at this forest and to actually watch how it's filling up with snow. He's on the run, I don't know, he's riding somewhere and like he has no time, or he just doesn't want to, and at the end there is miles to go before I sleep, like miles to go, and there is a long road to cover before he reaches something.
Yeah, well, how I feel about it is like we all have our businesses, we all have things to do and somewhere to run. But sometimes you just stop, caught by the moment of beauty. Like this little lovely cartoon about the little train which would stop to look at, flowers, birds, and the sun will always be late. This little cartoon?
Yes.
I think you did. So I think something like that happens to all of us. And every time it happens, we make our little choice. Do we stop and enjoy the moment and feel the beauty around us? Because we really, you may not believe me, but we do live in a beautiful world. You may not believe me, but it's true. So every time we make a little choice, do we stop and take it? Or do we say, well, that's rubbish. I don't have time to look at little flowers and snowflakes. I have business to do. My ears, my whiskers. Yeah, every time we make this little choice. Maybe he's a very busy person, but that's something bigger than him, maybe. Or maybe he's just very romantic in his heart and he lets it happen. Again, it's something that you decide for yourself. How do you read it is how you feel about it, is what you are, who you are, always. So watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. So yeah, like we said, his little horse is very much surprised. So we have some very strange horses in poetry. So if you remember, we had Delamare's poem about the listeners and this strange traveler and his horse. And again, it was a very strange horse. Why? Why?
And it's strange, but he, not
He?
it, but he is strange in English language.
Well, if your favorite horse is your companion, then obviously you know if it's a he or she.
But I think that horse is not only horse, but some more.
Yeah, horses are always something more than just horses. If you don't believe me.
And
Mhm.
obviously,
Mhm. So what's a horse? Who is a horse?
As you know, nowadays a lot of people can't eat their lovely pets, and he or she always calls it like he or she.
Yeah, well, because you may be told that in English you always call inanimate objects and pets and animals it. It's not true. I don't know what you're taught about English, it's not true. We have lots of objects which have sex, like a sheep is a she, you know. And if you know the sex of the animal, then obviously there's no reason to be so Puritan and say it when you know it's a she or a he. If it's your horse, then obviously you know if it's a boy or a girl. Yeah, so it's not so surprising. It means he's a normal person.
it is a little horse. Maybe in this character is a child.
Maybe. A very serious child. Yeah, it's interesting. Why my little horse? Not my brown horse, my tired horse, my happy horse, my little horse.
Maybe this pony.
Maybe it's a pony. But then you would say my pony.
Maybe he considered himself as a powerful man.
Yeah, maybe he's so big that his horse looks little next to him. Maybe. My little horse. My little friend. So little not like in size, but little like my dear horse.
His owners loves it so much, and that's why even it has a huge, enormous sizes. Which we call it my little.
Yeah, like my little horsey.
Like my mothers calls their kids my little, my kid, even if they are adult.
It's 45 years guy.
When it has a mother in twice.
Yeah. Okay, so horses are indeed very interesting. Horses, little horse or a big horse. Doesn't look like a horse to you. Yeah, that's a horse. That's the guy on the horse. The guy on the horse stops to look. I don't know if he had a hat, but I think it's a good winter. Okay. So what is this image? The man and the horse. Again, we see it everywhere, very often. The idea of the man and the horse. It's not very different from the idea of the village and the forest, if you think about it. Only you have a bit more success. Yeah.
Maybe two strangers who can travel everywhere, and there is new place which they're attached to. They are free and wild and free.
So we have again this kind of duality. We have the forest and the village, and they don't understand each other, or the village doesn't understand the forest. Now we have the man and his little horse. Do they understand each other? Yes?
They're soulmates.
No, they don't. My little horse must think it queer. My little horse probably thinks I'm crazy. Yeah, my horse thinks I'm crazy.
This means he understands it.
Understands the
because-
horse.
Yes, because he understands it's not. Can I call he or she? She's not ready to stay as a part of our farmhouse.
Yeah, so the horse is something that takes us from here to there, but even the horse doesn't understand us. We are very lonely. We are very lonely. Even your own horse doesn't understand you. What is your horse? What is your horse? What is it that gets you from place to place? which tries, does its very best, but it doesn't always understand you. What can it be?
It looks like mind and soul. The
Yeah,
soul
could be.
wants her things, and the mind tells the.
Doesn't always understand it. Yeah, I think it might be true. Like the horse is like mind, and the man is like soul. And whatever you say, but the man sits on the horse and not the other way around. It would be very strange the other way around. Yeah. Although the horse is maybe very clever, but it's still an animal. Yeah. So there are two different realities. The horse and the man. Somehow they coexist. They exist together. They have this friendship, not even partnership, friendship. But even in such close friendship like a man and the horse, there are still misunderstandings. Still, the horse does not see the reason. So the horse needs a reason. Why do we stay here? Is there a farmhouse near? No. Something's wrong. My master, are you alright there? Yeah?
I can't agree, I can totally agree with you, because I think they do understand each other, because, for example, the rider does understand that for horse it's weird to stop
Yes.
in the
I don't
forest.
say they don't understand each other at all, but
Yes,
not
and
always.
I think the rider can't understand why does he stopped either. I think it's not clear for him why did he stopped,
Yes.
and so he may have pretty the same feelings as a horse, and pretty the same thoughts. He can also think it's queer to stop here, so they have connection.
Yes.
They does understand, or they do understand each other.
Yeah, maybe it's also true. Yeah, I agree. So when he says the horse thinks this way, it's only a way of expressing his own ideas. Yeah. Okay. My little horse must think it queer. So again, here the horse is not just an animal. It has feelings, understandings, ideas of reality. Because if you think that something is strange, then you have an idea of an ideal reality. And if what is going on does not agree with your image of the ideal reality, then you say, how strange. Yeah? So the horse isn't stupid. The horse has her own conceptions of reality, of the universe, and they think it's queer. To stop without a farmhouse near. So again, we are a bit repeating ourselves here. No houses, stop without a house. So usually we think, if I stop, it's the end of the journey. I can get off my horse and go have some tea. Here we just stop in the middle of nowhere. Okay, a farmhouse. So first we have house, the village, farmhouse now. Is a farmhouse different from the village? How is it different?
No.
They can be separated and stand alone.
I think farmhouse and village may be different things because farm is farm, village is village.
Okay, farm is a farm, village is a village.
I think maybe a farmhouse is a house where we can leave the horse.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
Farmhouse is a horse house.
Yeah. Maybe it's like more domestic. Stop without the farmhouse near. And now we come back to our mapping. More details. Between the woods and frozen lake. So now all of a sudden we have a frozen lake. Why? Where does it come from? Why do we even need to know about it? Frozen lake.
Maybe frozen lake consists of ice, and ice that's coldness, loneliness. Again, some not negative things, but not warm or lovely, just cold. That's all.
Yeah.
And
So
nothing.
if you have the wood and snow like a dead place, now you have frozen lake. If you say frozen lake, then the normal state is not frozen. So again, it's something that is doesn't have any life in it. It's frozen. It's a strange place, really. If it's a fairy place, would you really want to go there? Does it sound like there are some happy people living there? Maybe.
Probably yeah, because
We don't have any people at all.
you can feel connection with nature and to communicate with it in some way. But I think that depends on the type of person and their mood and preferences.
Yeah. So now what is interesting, he doesn't say between the forest and the village. He says between the forest and the lake. Maybe the village is somewhere at the bottom of the lake. Oh, maybe it's that village. Oh, not really. Now we have this lake. Strange. So again, lakes are powerful places, places of power. Maybe it's one big, strange, powerful place, another big, powerful place. He's in between. Maybe he's not sure which is his place. I don't know. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Oh, no. We don't stop there just any time. No, it has to be the darkest evening of the year. Why?
Without moon, maybe.
No, it's the darkest evening.
Well, maybe this forest is for late this evening and make this forest is even more mysterious.
Yeah, it's mysterious. So now it's all dead. It's dark. A very happy place. So the darkest evening of the year. So first we had a special place. Now we have a special time. The darkest evening means it's a special time. What's the darkest evening of the year?
21 of December.
Christmas.
Around Christmas, a bit early. Yeah, if you remember, did we read it? I think we did. John Donne on St. Lucy's Day being the longest night, the shortest day. If you haven't read it, then just go and read it. It's my absolutely favorite poem. It's very cool, and then maybe you will feel why the darkest evening of the year is so important. Yeah, if you just find John Donne, Lucy. It's amazing. So if it's the darkest evening of the year, and if we understand it literally, as St. Lucy's Day, as this time of the darkest night, the longest night, then does it change anything?
Probably there is some horror. There is.
So I think it's changing because
The darkest hour.
I think it does make sense.
how
because
to watch his boots.
Yeah, so all normal people at such time sit in their house in the village. Everybody knows you must be really, really stupid to go into the forest on the darkest night of the year. Yeah, so he's an idiot. A little bit.
I think it just fulfills the whole scene. Firstly, we think about the horse. The horse thinks it's weird to to stop without a farmhouse near. Then we notice the frozen lake, which is pretty uncomfortable place to stop. And moreover, it's the darkest evening of the year. It's like fulfills the whole scene.
Yeah, we
That's
create
it.
this atmosphere, we
Yes.
build it up. Yeah, and do we believe the horse? Do we believe the horse?
Yes, we should, because horse is just an animal, because it wants to drink, to be safety, and right now it's really uncomfortable, so we should believe that it is a very dangerous place right now, because all animals feel this danger.
Yeah.
On the other hand, animals only think about their physical needs. At the same time, humans they carry also about some soul needs and all. So I guess we can't fully believe to a horse. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so again, it's always a choice that you make. You go out to a strange place at night and your horse says, I'm sorry, what are you doing? Do you listen to it, or do you go on, do you say, no, I'm the master, just go on? Again, you can't say, oh, just yes, just no. Always it's a situation.
Maybe this is a part of intuition.
Yes.
And if we say, oh, this is a full animal, I don't want to hurt her. Maybe this is a mistake. Him?
Him. Well, anyway, every time we make this decision. So the darkest evening of the year, on one hand it means it can't get more horrible and can't get worse. It's already the darkest time, the coldest, the darkest, the most full of death. Yeah, because it's a frozen world. But then again, if it's the darkest, the deepest, then what happens is it turns. It has to turn. If you reach the maximum or the minimum, then it has to turn. So if that's the darkest point of your journey, and maybe that's where you need to make a little pause and to see this little beauty around you. Just a snowflake, there's enough. There's enough to turn the whole world round, make it from the darkest to the lightest. Right? Yeah. So that's his darkest point. But we know if it's the darkest point, that means tomorrow it will get a bit lighter, and then it will be a bit lighter, and then oh look, it's Easter. Yeah. So if we say it's the darkest evening, then on one hand we see the darkness, we feel the coldness, but at the same time it gives us hope, it gives us a sense of something more light. Then again, snow can be different. If you think about heavy snow just lying there, it may be a bit depressing, but if you think about little snowflakes glistening, it's light, it's beautiful. So again, how do we see it? What do we see when we look at it? It depends on us entirely. The darkest evening of the year, and of course it has to be evening, not morning, not day, not afternoon. Why?
Maybe with these words, also try to show us two sides of our life. For example, even if today we have the darkest evening of the year, tomorrow it will be brighter, and it's also links to our life and events in our life.
Yeah, or else you can say evening is when it's a time when it gets dark, and evening is the ending. It's dark, it's the end, it's death, but really it's only the beginning. It's not the end, it's the beginning. The darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. Who's he?
Horse.
Horse. He gives his harness bells a shake. That's lovely, that's really lovely. Can you see it? What's harness? Harness bells. So what happens here? Can you hear it? Can you hear anything else?
It is like your mind is asking you, are you doing everything correctly? Are you sure?
So on one hand we have the horse talking to the rider, not in words, but with bells. At the same time, we have this lovely sound of bells, and we can feel this great big silence around us, because it's the only sound that we can hear. And is it a hard, heavy sound? Is it a light sound?
I think it is the sound. It's disturbing the silence, and it should be pretty not heavy, but it should be loud, because there is a silence, and even the smallest sound can be really loud.
Do you think it's out of place? The sound of bells. Do you think it's out of place? Yes. Who thinks it's out of place? Who thinks it's wrong to disturb the silence with stupid bells? Okay. Okay. Who thinks it was fine? Okay. Who thinks it doesn't matter?
I think the sound reflects the horse's feelings very well. She is disturbed and worried to some extent, and she wants to ask a question, but doesn't have any other means of doing it.
Yeah. What about the sound itself? Why is it the bells on the harness? Do we often see bells on the harness? Is it a good idea if you're riding through dark forest with a horrible bass and you're riding with the bells on your harness so that everybody knows you're there? Is that a good idea?
A sign of connection between the rider and the horse.
Yes.
And what's more, actually, I think that sound of ringing bells, it's more of a sign to go further. Like, well, that's all we can go. You saw some of snowflakes. I guess that's kind of. No.
Yeah, it's like snowflakes. Sound of bells and snowflakes. It's similar. How do we feel about the sound of bells? Is it horrible and depressing?
No, it's nice sound.
Where do we get the sound of bells? Where do we get sound of bells?
Celebrations of
In churches.
In church? Maybe? Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Christmas.
Christmas.
And sometimes bells were used to tell about something that goes wrong, like the.
Oh, but that's big bells. What about little bells, like jingle bells? So I think it's like a fairy music, really. It's a little ding, 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 ding. Like if you think about those like little fairies, and you think about fairy music, that's what you may hear. Or anyway, it's light music. Yeah? And what we know is this sound is very good for like saying that everything is okay. So all big scary things are afraid of this sound. Yeah? Little bells, big bells, you just and they go away. Maybe.
Maybe these bells says to us that it's more likely to be a Christmas evening and with
Oh, maybe it's Santa.
and when the starter songs the bells, a horse tried to get attention of its master and told to him, please go back to village.
Yeah, so we keep having these opposite energies. We have the village, the forest, the man, the horse. Really what we have here is the horse and the forest. Can you tell me about the relationship between the horse and the forest?
A horse doesn't feel comfortable in the forest.
It's afraid of it.
So when we read about the horse, when we read about the forest, how do we feel?
But at the same time, it's like they have a connection. Like horse, well, if we're talking like more objective, or the place for horse is in the forest. So why is she afraid of it? What's wrong, actually?
Yeah. So I think when we read about the horse, it's not just a big brutal horse. It's a little horse. It's nice. It's nice. Yeah. we read about the horse, it's something nice. We read about the forest, it's something horrible, and we keep looking from the horse to the forest. Yeah, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. And then we see something big and horrible between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. And then we get back to this nice and light little horse and its bells. Yeah. So our feelings, emotions, it keeps swaying between big and heavy and something we don't understand, and nice and little and jingly belly, yeah, something close to us. And we don't stay, we don't take a side, we don't say, well, the horse is stupid, let's go to the forest. We don't say, the horse is horrible, let's go away. No, we stay there, we just keep looking. That's what is beautiful in this poem, is sway. To ask if there is some mistake.
Oh, sorry, and like my idea was that horse needs to feel the spirit of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And well, actually, in the woods there is no area or space for him to run, and well, forest is a closed area, and there is some controversy between them, between the horse and the forest. That's why they are not connected.
Yeah, the horse likes the farmhouse. Yeah, the horse is not afraid of the forest as such. He just doesn't understand why. Why stop there in a strange place? Mm-hmm. To ask if there is some mistake. That's also beautiful. The horse is questioning the rider. Do you often have the horse questioning the rider? I think you do. I think horses do that, although I'm not a horsey person. To ask if there is some mistake. So there's a question of mistake, or something getting wrong, going wrong. And mistake, like, are you sure? Are you sure you're doing the right thing? Maybe that's this a little voice which just keeps asking, are you sure you're doing the right thing? Master, are you sure? Yeah, maybe it's like our inner voice, our mind. The only other sounds a sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So again, we come back to easy wind, downy flake, sounds, more sounds. Actually, when you read poetry, then you know that usually you have lots of images, and less you have sounds. Then even less you have smells, but we don't have any smells here. Do you have any smells in the forestry, in the wintry forest?
Yes.
And again, you may think that the forest is cold and the horse is nice and warm and alive, and that's the only other living being with the rider. Because the people are all in the village, and we don't see anyone living in the forest. So the horse must be his own real companion. The horse doesn't like this place. The sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So now we see wind, and why? Why do we need wind in here? Is it a loud sound? Is it dangerous for the rider if you can hear the wind in the winter forest?
We return to opposing the forest and the horse, because they don't like each other. We can think of a forest like some kind of a living being, maybe.
Yes, it is.
And the horse is afraid of the forest. It doesn't feel comfortable in the forest, and the forest doesn't want the horse to be in it.
Because it's alive! We don't need living horses in this big forest.
And moreover, the horse the horse's bell rings, and it is pretty loud, and the other sounds, the sweep of the wind and downy flake, and it is something not so loud, maybe even really calm, and the bell isn't the bell like we were talking about the jingle bells, because jingle bells are like something far away, and it getting near and near, and the bell in the poem is like the bell the owners of the maybe stores used to hang on the doors when someone enters the store, the bell rings, and it disturbs the silence, and the owner knows that someone entered. And it's there's the same thing, and the forest, okay. The forest doesn't want the horse to disturb the silence, and
yes. So what we have here is this classical intrusion of someone alive into this kingdom of death. Also, the forest is cold and silent. Who is cold and silent? Let me think. Who is cold and silent?
Horse.
Yeah, and the horse is alive and very noisy. So of course they don't like each other. What's really interesting here is that the rider himself, the traveler, is invisible. He's still in between. He's the traveler, he's the one in between. He's between the horse and the forest. He's between the forest and the village. He's between the lake and the forest. He's in between. He's invisible here. Yeah?
I'm sorry, I need to go. Can you?
Yeah, of course, okay. So see you next time, maybe. The only other sound is sweep is the wind and only flake. Also, if you talk about wind, it kind of gives you more air, more space in this image. And maybe when you say the little horse, maybe it's compared to the forest. Maybe the forest is big, the presence of the forest is big. And if you walk into it, then you feel small. Even if you have a horse, you feel small because the forest is big as a presence. So do you feel comfortable there? No. Does he feel comfortable there? The narrator? At the moment, yes. And we know it because he says the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. So this here turns quite eerie, quite scary if you really think about it, what it means and what he's talking about. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep.
It's like awakening from the blackout.
He wants to keep its miracle, its beauty in his heart, soul, before he
Yeah. So if you say that something that is dark and deep is lovely, then what does it tell about you? If normal people sit safely in their houses in the village, and they say, no, it's not beautiful, it's scary, it's horrible. Say, no, it's dark, it's deep, it's cold, how beautiful, it's lovely.
Maybe he likes to risk, and that's why he doesn't care about darkness.
Does he sound like he wants to risk?
I think this guy, yes, he feels that he maybe never be back, yes, in this place, and because of it, and he feel lovely for woods and forests.
Yeah. So why do we oppose the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep? What if he had no promises to keep?
I think he is really enjoying all this forest and finding bonuses here. And if he have an opportunity, he'll stay there for a longer time. But he has promises.
So what is the forest?
I think he sounds like tired.
It's death.
It's death. Yes, very easily. Now, as we read through it, we understand that the forest is death. It doesn't like living creatures. The horse is alive. It feels really uncomfortable there, as it should. Yeah? So the woods are lovely, dark and deep. So you just say the death instead of the wood and see if it works. The death is lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. How does it sound to you?
So I have some things to do, so
Thank
I'll
you.
not know.
Does it work? Yeah, don't worry.
Maybe he tempted by this, but he understands that he needs to live, continue to live, and that's why he's not ready to go there now.
He's ready to go, but he has promises to
He
keep.
understands that it's not his time.
So that's a very interesting. And again, miles to go before I sleep. And now, what kind of sleep is he talking about? Again.
He understands that he must do a lot before going to sleep.
So if we read it this way, which I think is how do we feel about it? So why can he think that death is lovely, dark and deep?
Because it's maybe he has hard situation in life.
Maybe love, maybe life.
And he knows death is beautiful and calm, but I fight.
Yeah. So then it all comes into places. The traveler is like we travel through our life. Yeah. And those people who sit safely in their houses, they say, no, we don't want to die, thank you. Not today, not tonight. But it's his darkest hour. And this darkest hour you go to the forest. And the forest is really a place of death. In all fairy tales, you go there, you die, and you come back renewed. That's the idea. It's where you go. And he likes it. He's not afraid of it. He is ready to take it. He understands I have promises to keep. So it's only his sense of duty that keeps him going. Well, what kind of promises, we don't know. But it's interesting that sometimes we do need to go into this death kingdom, the region, the domain of death, and come back. And or go further without really stopping there. Stop for a moment to feel it. So do we like going there? Do we wake up in the morning and think, okay, today I'm going to think about death?
No, I think we think about this in the most hard time in our life when we can't accomplish with something, but with time it goes to past and we understand we should continue to live.
Or maybe sometimes it's important to go there, because it's no use to turn a blind eye to the forest. It will come to you sooner or later, because that's what the forest does, doesn't it? Maybe it's important to go there and to make yourself familiar with it. Face it.
Maybe if we look from the angle that is death, the narrator, maybe he's something horrible should happen in his life, and he doesn't want to face it maybe, and it's better to him to just not to accept his faith, but to stay in the wood, in the woods, and to rest, maybe.
Yeah. So do you feel like he's afraid, like he's...
I think he has no choice. It's his business. He just get accustomed to this, and so he doesn't care go or stay here. And you're right. I like your idea about that forest can come to you if you don't do this.
Yeah, I mean, you sit just in your house, and one beautiful morning you look out and the forest is just all around you. And then the horse is this life force which is in us, that voice which says, I don't want to die, I want to live. That's the living bit, yeah? The bit which keeps us alive. The bells, my little horse must think it queer to stop here. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you going to this dead place? Are you sure? Yeah, okay, you can come here. I think it's very strange, but if you come here, please don't stop there. Just remember, we need to go on. There's no farmhouse here. It's not the place, it's not the time yet. Yeah?
Yes, in fact, I can't agree with her, because she said that the narrator doesn't care about staying or going away. I think he does care, because he finds the woods lovely, and but I have promises to keep.
He would rather stay.
It sounds like
he's sorry to leave, he's sorry to go.
Yes, he wants to
has
stay.
to.
He has to, and he doesn't find promises as something he wants to.
Yeah, but I have to.
So I think he does care.
He does care. Well, to me he sounds just very tired. Maybe it was a very long journey, and if you had a long journey and you know you still have that much to go, maybe the wood looks very lovely to you. But thanks to the horse, to your promises, you keep on going. You have promises to keep. And miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. So these two lines, like we said, they're sort of strange. And I think that's the art of reading here. When you write it on paper, when you see it on paper, it's nothing. It's just two lines. Like, oh, somebody typed the same line twice by mistake. Did they miss a line here? When you read it, there are many ways of reading it. Also, do we read it like twice the same, or are they two different phrases? And miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep.
I think it's for me it's more like the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. For me it's like that.
And I prefer to read it bravely, like and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So he wants to go because he wants to struggle with the world. He wants to keep his desires and his life, his personality.
So there are lots and lots and lots of ways of reading it. So just now, as an experiment, I want everybody just to read it aloud quietly, just to feel how you personally read it. Okay? So just for yourself, just now. Must go before I sleep. Must go before I sleep. So you can do it at home if you don't feel comfortable here. But the thing is, how you read it, it reflects who you are very clearly. What you see in these two lines, because that's the beauty. It doesn't say anything. It's not a sheet of musical notes with marks like here it's piano, here it's 40. You read it how you feel it's right. You read it how you feel it's the best, and that's you. So just how you read it now, it tells a lot about you. Okay?
And how do you feel it?
How do I read it? And miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I guess. And so there are lots and lots of ways of reading. Like, oh, I'm so tired, how horrible, miles and miles and miles. Or like you say, and miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep, you'll never see me. Yeah, or maybe we say, and miles to go before I sleep. So you think, oh, that's such a long way, and miles to go before I sleep. And then you think, but in the end I will sleep, I will have a rest. Yeah. Or, and miles to go before I sleep.
I agree with you, but I think it depends on our ages. Yes, when we strong, we can read it like you. Yes, when we old people, when we will read in a different way.
Sleep. Yeah. Like I said, it depends on you, including your age, including your personality, obviously. It's like what they say about this famous short prayer. What's the shortest prayer in Christianity? It's the mighty prayer. Do you know? Jesus' prayer? You don't know. Okay, it's like a very tiny little prayer, and it just says, what does it say? Jesus Christ, the Son of God, have mercy on us. It's very simple. Or sometimes it's just Jesus Christ, have mercy on us, or on me. Yeah? Or on me, sinful. So they say how you read this little prayer again tells a real lot about you. Which word do you stress? Well, it doesn't have to be a prayer. It doesn't have to be about religion. You can take a little normal poem like this and find it out about yourself, who you are, what you are. I think we need it. I think we need to at least have a look at ourselves. Go to the frozen lake and see if you can see your reflection in it. Anything else we can say here?
I don't agree that this is connect only with age. Maybe this is connect also with our inner feeling of ourselves, of the world around us, of our plans, of our healthy.
Yeah, all that makes us who we are here, and which is another very interesting question. Who are you? What is the meanness of me? Never stop asking this question. What is the meanness of me? If you take away this, if you take away your age, is it still you, regardless of your age? Or are you different people when you're young, when you're old? You take out your skills, now you can't do something. Is it still you? Now you take out your logical mind, I don't know, is it still you? Now you take out this, now you take out that. You strip yourself out. What is left? It has to be something, this little atom, which cannot be taken away, which cannot be divided, which makes us ourselves who we are. What is it? Where is it? Never stop asking this question, because what's the point otherwise? If you live your life and you say, okay, I'm a 45 years old teacher of mathematics with 5 children and I live in Cardiff. If it's all taken away from you, does it mean you never lived? And I like little fluffy spiders. If it's all taken away from you, what's left? What is left? That's what we ask. We should ask, I guess. Miles to go before I sleep. Again, miles to go, miles to go. First part is a long journey, hard journey, because he repeats it, before I sleep. And the rest, and the work and the rest. Beautiful. Anything else we can say here?
Fluffy and downy. This is the same? Downy.
What is downy?
Мягкий, пушистый.
Yeah, so it's soft, easy win, downy flakes.
We can say fluffy flake.
You can say what you like.
This is grammatically correct?
Fluffy flake, yeah.
I think the last words of the poem just reflects our state, because people in every age could be tired of the life, either it's kids or teenagers or adult people.
Yes. So, if we look at the whole poem, what is very nice is how it starts like something normal. Because woods is I think I know, his house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So it's all quite normal. It's all quite normal, but somehow through this very short poem, in the end, it's something completely different. From normality to death and life and... Yeah? I think it's really good.
It also seems like we stay far away from the mirror, and step by step we just exactly can see our own character, and at the end we just meet ourselves.
Yes. Another interesting thing here is, as we look at it, we don't really see much of the narrator. We see, in the first part, we see some strange guy who lives in the village. We don't meet him, he's just mentioned. Then we just see the horse in the forest, the forest and the horse, the horse and the forest, the horse and the horse. And only in the end, I have promises to give. We come back to the narrator. So we only have I in the very beginning. I think I know. And it's like, it's not a deep I. It's, oh, I think I know. But here in the end, this I is big, is important. I have promises to keep. It's different from, oh, I think I know who this guy is. It's not important. But here I have promises to keep. It grows. It becomes really big. I have promises to keep. Anything else?
Maybe this is journey to our unconsciousness to find the power, inner power. And first of all, the hero of this poem to take his soul from puzzles, and then the puzzles connect, and there is another picture of himself. With many inner power.
Yeah, now he has power to go on all those miles and miles. He does sound really tired, but he knows he has to go. Yes?
I find this poem very interesting because from the simple words in the beginning, it leads us to very deep and interesting thoughts about our life and death and the end.
Yeah, and basically, speaking of simple words, it's all in simple words. You don't have any long, strange, crazy words. It's all very simple. The rhyming, like we said, is a bit unusual, but again, it's simple. It's just the same rhymes, and the third rhyme rhymes with the next three. Yeah. So it sounds simple. The words are simple, but the message is very deep and profound. I think that's how poetry is supposed to work, basically. Okay, anything else?
I think we can see the whole picture from another angle, absolutely. He has busy life, and there was a moment when he just stopped and admires the world around him. And as for me, I don't see a forest as dangerous, and I think that...
It's not dangerous because he loves it. He finds it attractive.
A frozen lake is a safe place in winter too. So
Yeah.
I think the main idea can be stop and admire the world.
Yeah, always, it's
around
always.
you.
If you have a little story, you can
Despite
read
the
it from
busy
many
life.
different points of view. Yeah. So the first time you read it, what you see is just capturing this little moment of stillness among this busy world, in this busy world. Next time you read it, you see, maybe it's not just a moment of stillness, maybe he goes to death, maybe. But it's all true, this is true, this is true, and if you see something else, that will also be true. Because it's the reader who makes the poem. The poem as it's in itself is nothing. If it just sits here on a piece of paper, it's nothing. It only becomes alive when we read it. You know what they say about dreams? If you have a dream, it's not important how you translate it, what you make of it is makes the meaning. So if two people have the same dream, but one comes to one person and say, what does it mean? And he says, it means you will be rich. This person will get rich. Another person has exactly the same dream. He comes to another guy. What does it mean? It says, it means you will die, and this guy dies. So the dream is the same. The interpretation is what makes it different. Yeah, you may look at me like this. It's a very old idea. So the dream is not important. The interpretation is. The poem is not important. How we see it, what we feel is important. Okay? Well, phew. Thank you very much for joining me today. It was very nice to see you.
Thank you.
So, before we go, let me just tell you that we have Shakeyburns contact group, and also kind of starting making a Facebook page too, if you're interested. It doesn't have much there, but it exists. So if you go look for Shakeyburns, you'll get news, updates, dates, links, things. You can share your ideas, you can share your suggestions, you can have lots of fun there. I hope you will join me there too. So hopefully see you next week. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.